Welcome, welcome. Welcome back to From Middle Class to Millions. This is part two. Part two of the segment that you listened to last week. And honestly, I love this part the most because this is the part where I get to talk to people. I'm not talking at them. I'm not teaching them, but I'm actually hearing their questions. I'm hearing their concerns. I'm hearing what they want to know about how to invest, how to build wealth. And I have the opportunity to talk to real people. And they have the opportunity to actually ask someone, what the heck is going on? Why don't I understand all of this jargon that they're talking about when they're referring to investments? Talk to me in plain English. Keep it simple for me because although I'm very smart, I don't have time to learn a whole new language. I only have time to learn what is important and what makes sense for me to build wealth. So if you listen to part one, I laid out the framework. But in this episode, it's the real questions from real women who were in that room with me live. Questions about debt payoff strategy, questions about is it too late for me, about how do I actually start, especially when life is full and I have all of these other competing priorities, the kids, the grandkids, the parents, everything, and my budget feels tight. If you had a question while you were listening to part one, there's a really good chance that it's going to be answered here in part two. So this recording is only up for a limited time. So if someone sent you part one, I want you to go back, listen to it first, and then come right back here. And if anything you hear in these two episodes makes you think, I don't know how to do this. I don't have the answers to this. I want to learn this. I want to be in the room with other women who are asking these questions. And I want to be in the room with someone who's done this while working a 9-to-5 and built a multi-million-dollar net worth. You've got to enroll in From Middle Class to Millions, your 100K portfolio. It is open now. Doors close Friday, April 17th at midnight. So please, everything you need to know is in the show notes. So let's get right into it. All right. So I know that you guys have questions and I want to answer your questions. So feel free to put your questions in the chat. I'm looking here to see. All right. Again, I know that somebody mentioned that they don't have a six-figure income. You don't have to wait until you have a six-figure income. In fact, if you can invest before you have a six-figure income, all the better. All the better. I didn't have a six-figure income when I started. I didn't. I think that it's important for you to know that the fundamentals that you are going to learn here are going to take you from your less than six-figure income to your multiple six-figure income or seven-figure income. It's the same. What you're going to learn here in the market is the same. That's the beauty. The market doesn't change. It hasn't changed. It is going to remain the same. And when it does change, you are already going to be educated. You're already going to be financially literate. You're going to be able to make the right moves for you, for your family, for your future. It makes complete and perfect sense to get started now because you're going to understand the fundamentals. All right. What else do I see here? It does look different. I'm embarrassed to reveal that there's so much uncertainty for us. Together we make approximately 900K. We have lots of investments, but we don't know how to increase our wealth. Okay, well, that's together you have approximately 900K. I don't know if that's across 401ks or other investment vehicles. That is a substantial amount of wealth that you've amassed. The question for you is, okay, is it tied up in a 401k? I don't know how old you are. Can you access it? Do you want to retire? What are you going to use the money for? A lot of people just start investing, but they have no clear direction. If you're in your 30s, I'm not necessarily telling you to tie up your money until you're 59 and a half. You may want to access it sooner. That's why it's important to have a personalized plan for your strategic goals, for your needs, for your wants, your desires. It is very personal. But that's why when you understand the fundamentals, whether it's a 401k, an IRA, a brokerage account, a 529, it's all in the stock market. Those are just different vehicles to put your money in, but it's all the stock market. So once you understand the fundamentals of the stock market, you can invest in anything for any purpose. And that's what we're going to talk about. What do you need the money for? When will you need the money? How much money will you need? And I'm going to help you figure out the answers to those questions. It is going to require you to think about the life you want to continue living, or the life that you actually want to live. All right? When are the classes and the meetings? I love that you call them classes and meetings. I'm going to start in April, okay? And they're going to be in the evenings on Tuesdays. Tuesday evenings, we're going to start by the third week of April, so that is the 21st. They are always going to be recorded. So all of the sessions are going to be recorded, all of the Q&A, everything. So you're always going to get the replay. So, if you're on vacation, you don't want to come see me, okay, that's fine. Then you know what? You will get the replay. All right. It will be there for you. But they're also always going to be the integration session. So listen, when you have questions after you've watched the replay, we have an integration session so you can implement some of the things that you learned, you heard, that you have questions about. All right. So this is going to start next month. We got to start as quickly as possible. The reason why is also because the market's down. I love that it's down. If you are not investing more right now, throwing more money into the market, if you know what you're doing, you're making money. This is when the money is made. Okay. When the market is down. When the market is down, and I'm going to explain that to you and teach that to you, and you'll understand why at these points you've got to dig in. But you got to know what you're doing. You have to have a strategy. You got to have a plan. Can couples join? Absolutely. Absolutely. Couples can join. The two of you can come. Yeah, it's the same $2,500 if you book your call by tonight. It's this by tomorrow night. It's the same $2,500 for couples. Yes, you got to be living in the same home. Yes, couples can absolutely join. All right. I think it's incredibly important for couples to join because you too have to talk about what your strategy is. What are your goals? What are you guys heading towards? You got to be on the same page, right? Or you got to figure out how to get on the same page. Okay. Exactly. We're not sure we understand. Also don't know what we don't know. Yes. Okay. So that's about the 900K. Yeah, I know. A lot of us don't understand what we're actually investing in. We're just told to do it. And you're smart enough to figure out, look, I've been smart enough to have this career. I've been smart enough to make this money. I've been smart enough to get this far. So I'm smart enough to know I should be investing. But where do I go? What do I do? Why am I investing in this, that, or the next thing? You have to be able to understand why you're doing this and not just throwing good money after sometimes bad. I cannot tell you how many accounts I've looked at where people have lost money for years and they don't understand why, or their investments just aren't growing. They're flatlining. And it's like, yeah, because they don't have a strategy and because they're paying a financial advisor. So any little money they're making, the advisor's taking their money regardless. So the advisor's taking the money whether you make money or not, by the way. Okay, so they are taking money for all of your assets that they have under management. And I know it doesn't sound like a lot when it's 1% or 2%, but like I said in my former client's example, that amounts to $140,000 over a decade. That $140,000 is money that she could have invested herself. That's money that could be compounding and making more money for her. And that was over 10 years. When I extrapolated that over 20 and 30 years, it was gastronomical how much money she would have lost. I don't want that for you. I want you to understand what your money's doing. All right, let me know. Do you have questions for me? Do you have any questions? I think it's so very important for you guys to ask your questions. Get them out there. Ask your questions. Let me know what you're thinking. I know that sometimes this can be really intimidating. I can't tell you how many clients come to me and they're like, nobody's taught me this. We didn't learn this. I wish I had started sooner. I wish I had gotten started. And I get it. I get it. I spent a lot of years learning this on my own. Okay, making a lot of mistakes because there was nobody out there to teach me. But what I did know was that I was going to make it to $1 million. I was going to be a millionaire. I knew that that was the case. I needed to figure out how. And once I figured out the simple path, well, then it was very straightforward how quickly I could get there. And I did it. And what I teach all of my clients is how they can do it too. And they're amazed. These are smart people. They are amazed that they didn't know this sooner, right? They didn't understand this sooner and they didn't start it sooner. So I don't want you to miss out on this opportunity. I don't want you to miss out on the possibility of building this 100K or more. Because listen, you can't understand the 100K. If you don't understand the 100K, you're not going to understand 500K. You're not going to understand $1 million. It's just not going to happen, right? And building wealth, you don't kind of fall into it, all right? You have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan. You have to know what it is that you're doing, but it's not complicated. And I know the financial industry loves to make it complicated. Why do you think that is? If it's complicated, you will get somebody else to do it for you, and you will pay them for years and years and years. When quite frankly, like I said, if you don't have $1 million net worth, I don't want to hear about a financial advisor. When you get to that point, we can start talking about a tax strategist. But before that, no way. Is there a payment plan available for the program? If you want a payment plan, speak to me. Those are on an individual basis. Book your call and we can talk about it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I want you to know that this is a return on your investment like no other. I don't have investments that give me a 40x return. I would love to say I do, and I'm pretty savvy and I invest in a lot of things, and I've invested in a lot of things. 40x, I don't think I've ever scored that. Not like that. I got to tell you, this is how I want you to think. I want you to think, look, I'm investing this. I'm investing it, not only the money, but I'm investing my time. I'm investing in my brain. I'm investing in a skill set that I will have for the rest of my life. I have been investing in the stock market now for decades. Guess what? It hasn't changed. So what you will learn will not change. It'll get you to your first 100. If you don't understand what you have in there now, it'll get you to the next milestone. But you have to get started. You have to understand what it is that you're doing. You cannot build wealth by keeping your money in a savings account. It's not going to happen. Even a high yield savings account, still not going to happen. You cannot beat inflation with your 3.5% or 4% high yield savings account. And if you've got it in a traditional bank, a brick and mortar bank, getting your 0.01%, you can forget it. You can absolutely forget it. How can you compete with people who are making 20-something% year after year? You can't. You cannot. So if, for example, somebody's invested in the S&P 500 for the past 50 years, that thing's been averaging 10%. You are not going to beat that with whatever high yield savings account, whatever brick and mortar savings account, whatever fears that you have. You have to invest in order to build wealth. You have to do this for yourself. You are working so hard for your money. The turning point for me was seeing that, my investments are yielding more than my annual salary. The light bulb went off for me at that moment. What the heck? I'm getting up, I'm getting dressed, I'm getting in my car, I'm driving to work. I have to deal with the boss. I got to deal with management. I'm traveling all over the world for my job. I'm doing all of these things, the stress and the pressure, and something's making money for me in the background, and I'm not doing anything. That's magic. It's like magic beans. And it's simply because I started. So I want you to understand that you want to get to that point of financial independence, but you got to get started. And you have to understand how to get to that 100K before, of course, you can get beyond that. How quickly can we get from 900K to over 2 million? I have no idea. That's something that we could talk about in the group because there are calculators that can figure that out. That's why I said you don't need math. You don't need to know the math. What we need to know is, okay, are you strategically investing? How much are you investing? How often are you investing? What is the timeline? I mean, what is the market doing? We can extrapolate out. On average right now, the market is doubling every 9 years. Okay? Sometimes it doubles every 7 years. All right. But it depends on how much you have, right? It depends on how much you have and how much you're contributing, right? So we will look at that and I'll explain how that changes and how you can extrapolate and know, okay, this is when I'll need 2 million. The question I ask you is why 2 million? Why is that the magic number? And that's what we would talk about. Is that what you're going to need to live off of? Why 2 million, right? We want to know why. We don't want to just pull numbers out of the sky. We want to actually have answers as to why we want to have this amount of money. All right. Do you have an estimated time frame of when we will start to see growth? Yeah, absolutely. Like right now is the best time. I know you're going to see growth right now because the market is down, right? I'm buying like a crazy person because let me give you an example. During COVID, when the market was down, I had clients who became millionaires and I had people who came to me after who missed the boat. And the folks who invested during COVID, they invested, and this is part of the teaching. If you take $100 and let's say you're buying something and it's $10 and you can buy 10 of them, 10 for $10 for your $100. Okay, great. But when the market goes up, that same thing that was $10 that you bought is now $40. Wait a minute. How did that $100 now turn into $4,000? That's how you make money. So how quickly it can happen is determined by a few things. Obviously, it's determined by the market. It's determined by how much you are investing. It's determined by what you're investing in. Some folks are out here doing crazy, wild stuff and losing money left, right, and center, right? So you have to understand all of these factors. And it also depends on what are you investing for? Are you investing for retirement? Are you investing for college for your kids? Are you investing, like, when do we need this money, right? So it also depends on what you're investing in and why and what for, okay? So how soon you're going to need that money. So yeah, you're going to see returns quickly. I see returns every day. Even though the market's down, I'm still seeing returns. I'm still making money hand over fist. Remember, I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. It is doing it for me because the interest, the money is making money on top of money, right? So the money that I put in a long time ago is still making money. And then that interest is making money. And then that interest is making money. And I will show you how that compound interest actually works. It's considered the 8th wonder of the world. So yes, but you have to get started. You have to get started. You have to understand what you're doing. Getting to $100,000 is boring. It is. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to know that that's there. And now that's the inflection point because that's when the money starts to really double. I've seen people take 2 years to get to 100,000 because they're barely putting in any money. And then when they get to the 100,000, they're like, hey, how come that doubled to 200,000 in a year? And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's how it works. So understanding compound interest, understanding how the market works, understanding that you have the money today to go ahead and start investing is key. Don't let the amount that you think you have to invest stop you. I told you can start with $1. When I started with the $25, I knew I was going to be a millionaire, but I also knew that I was learning. Of course, I added to that. Over time, I continued to add to that. But I had to get my financial situation cleared up too. I needed to know what was going on. And a lot of you, I know it's messy. You got tax stuff. You're paying for stuff. You don't know money's going out here. You're doing all sorts of things. I had a client today who pays $1,200 because for her business expenses to get an extension for her taxes. What? No. This is why we got to organize our money. $1,200. Do you know what that could buy for us in the market? So getting that foundation set up is so important. So I don't want you to think about, oh, it's tight right now. I'm not ready right now. It doesn't make sense right now. Right now makes sense. It's on sale. Right now makes more sense than when it's high. You've heard buy low, sell high. It's low. We want to buy. Okay? All of my clients who are in this situation right now are cleaning. They're buying. they're buying. And they know what to buy. And they know why they're buying. And they understand it. Because they will look back and see the difference. Think about all those folks who bought NVIDIA years ago. All of those folks who bought NVIDIA, how happy are they right now? How happy? They bought it for next to nothing. Now look at it, right? So I want you to think about, does this make sense for me? Of course. Of course it does. Let me know. Ask your questions. Any other questions? We didn't even know to buy now. Yeah. I mean, well, yes, of course. I can understand that. You wouldn't know to buy now if you're not tracking the market. And you don't have to track the market. You don't have to be a financial guru. You just need to know what's important and what matters. You don't have to know every single thing. Do you know the mechanics of your entire vehicle? No, but you know how to drive it. You know how to put gas in it. You know, some of you may know how to change tire. Like, you don't have to know every single thing about the pistons, and you don't need to know everything. You need to know enough for it to work in your favor. And this is what's important. Let me know what other questions you guys have. I want you to book your call. Seriously, I want you to book the call. I want you to do so before tomorrow evening. You will get that reduced investment. It immediately puts $300 in your pocket that you can use to start investing right away, which I love. Any other questions, folks? I know we've been on for over an hour, but I want to make sure that your questions are answered. Here is the program overview as well. I know you guys are going to get these slides as the replay, but this is also the program overview. If you have anything else that you want to know about the modules, of course, we can talk about this at the class. At the call, if you book your call. So I would really appreciate if you did that so we can get these calls in. I think it's an amazing opportunity, and to get the reduced rate. Any other questions? Anything else? I'm here. If you guys want to ask questions, this is your opportunity. You mean you guys aren't nosy enough to ask me anything else? Really? You're kidding. Thanks, Bernice. You booked your call. Amazing. Excellent. I can't wait. Book your calls, guys. These are going to fill up. So book your calls. Absolutely. If you've already spoken to me and you don't want to book your call, like I said, just go check out. Like, why wait? I know this is going to fill up. I know people need this. Last week, just a little story time, I was in Las Vegas. I was at a conference that I was invited to speak at, and real talk rooms with women who had so many questions, so many good questions about their finances, about investing, about life transitions, and what to do. And one of the sentiments that I heard a lot was, I wish I knew this before. Nobody talks to you about money. I heard a lot of, I have a financial advisor. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. I heard a lot of, I don't know if it's going to be enough. I don't know if it's going to last. And I think it's so important for women in particular, who, like I said, live longer than men, that you make sure that you know what's going on with the money, right? Whether you're coupled with in a heterosexual relationship or not, I want you to know what's going on with your money, because if you're going to live, and these women, I'm going to tell you, are taking fantastic care of themselves. They're fully into wellness. They're fully taking care of themselves. And I was like, what is the point? Because if you get to a certain age, the money can't run out at 75 if you plan to live to 100. Okay? That's not wellness. Financial wellness has to factor in there as well. Okay. It can't just be physical wellness and mental wellness and emotional wellness. Although, listen, if your money's not straight, that will take a toll on your mental and emotional health. Trust me, I know. So I know that if you are taking care of yourself, this is an element of your life that you need to take care of as well. You can't you can't outlive the money. That's not going to work. And I know some of you are hell-bent on not being dependent on your kids, right? For those of you who have kids, and surely no one wants to be dependent on the system. So we've got to figure this out. And putting this off is not the answer. Burying our heads in the sand is not the answer. And putting all of this information in the hands of an advisor is the worst thing you can do. I see how it erodes people's gains like nobody's business. So listen, if you already know, look, I've been putting this crap off for too long. I need to get started on this immediately and end 2026 strong, knowing what the heck is going on with the investments I may have, or actually get started on these investments, then yeah, that's fantastic. I say now is the time to do it. I totally agree with you. Why put it off any longer? Do my spouse and I have to meet with you at the same time, or do we have separate sessions? We want to meet with you together. This is a group program, so you guys can come together. We're going to meet once weekly. If you're talking about one-on-one, that's something completely separate, but this is a group program. So you would meet with all of us on the Tuesday evenings. And again, there will be recorded. If one spouse can't make it, if you want to rewatch it, whatever the case may be, that's the opportunity for you right there to show up, right? Both of you can come at the same time. I think it's best if you can. It's a little money date night. It's a little, some of my clients love their little money date nights, okay? Because again, we are talking about your life, your lifestyle. I make sure that my clients factor in the enjoyable parts of money. Sometimes that's date night, sometimes that's vacation, sometimes whatever it is that's important to them. It needs to be in there, and it can be in there while you're building wealth. Okay. It can be in there while you're paying off the debt. It can be in there while you're building up your emergency fund. It can be in there. It's the planning of this stuff. It's the understanding, the education, the coaching, and the accountability that all comes in together. It can be in there. Absolutely. How many clients do you take for each group? That's a great question. I like 10. No more than 10. If I have more than 10, I would open up another day and do it a different day at the same time, because that gives me enough time to really get you to get all your questions answered, for me to get in there and see everything that's going on. I think that's a manageable amount right now, particularly for folks who are beginning, right? If I was talking to folks who are already who are ready to do real estate investing, that would be something else. Right? Even if they were beginning real estate investing, their minds are already in the mode to be investors, right? They already have stocks. They're already in the stock market, and now they're ready to be an investor in a different realm. Absolutely. That's a little bit different, but I want you to feel comfortable. So that's why I think 10 is a good number. Thank you. That's a really good question. Yeah, I want you guys to book the calls. Book a call. I mean, this makes complete sense. It's a limited time offer. After that, I'm jacking that back up. But I really want you to be incentivized to get in here early. All right? Because there's a lot of stuff that I've found that's preventing folks from getting started. And a lot of it has to do with organization. A lot of it has to do with misinformation or lack of information. It's not the finances. And that's the sin, actually. That's the problem, actually, because the money is there to invest. But because things are a little chaotic, because you don't understand what to do, you're losing that time and you're not taking advantage of the opportunity that's in front of you. So I don't want you to continue to wait. Any other questions? Please let me know. Oh, so while you're thinking of your questions, I was telling you about Vegas. I got a little distracted by some of the questions there because I want to make sure I answer your questions. But the other thing that I found about Vegas, a lot of these women also were experiencing different life changes, right? So divorce, kids were leaving, they had been caregivers for their elderly parents who had unfortunately passed. And so now they found themselves in this situation where it's like, I finally have the opportunity to look at my money. And there was a lot of regret by some of them, a lot of shame because they hadn't done what they felt they should have done. There were a lot of tears. I mean, money is really emotional. It really, really is. And that's why I'm like, you know what, math, I don't want you to think that math is what it needs to be involved here. And that's solely what we're doing, because it's more than that. Right? It's understanding why you're where you are today, and not because you want to beat yourself up, but to really give yourself some grace to understand, okay, yeah, life happens to all of us. And you were probably busy doing so many things that you didn't have the opportunity to look at this and focus on this. But I want you, I really want you to know that this is an opportunity for you, right? To focus on you. And especially for the women out there, a lot of you have not given yourself an opportunity to take care of yourself. And so I want you to do that. I want you to take care of yourself. I want you to invest in yourself, not just in learning this and becoming educated and becoming literate, but also to have something for you. This money's for you. Yeah, some of you are going to think about legacy and what are you going to leave your kids and your grandkids, and that's beautiful. But some of you, I want you to make sure that you're taken care of as well. And for the first time, this may be an opportunity to do that. And I saw there were a lot of women in there who were crying, who were really scared. And they're scared because they thought it was too late. It's not too late. Unless you're dead, it's not too late. Okay? Unless you're dead, it's not too late at all. You can make tremendous strides, but you need to get started. It doesn't take very long. It's really knowing what to do. I know some people are looking at a 401k that's been stagnant for 10 years, and you're like, well, it seems like it's going to take forever. That's because you don't have the right strategy. You don't know what's going on in there. And you just signed up. I know HR. I know HR orientation. I remember they couldn't tell me anything. I remember one HR woman said to me, "Oh, I'm not gonna contribute to my 401k, and I don't have the money for that right now, and I don't even get it." And that was it. This is what HR was telling me when I was signing up. So, well, they don't know, they can't help me, and I didn't even know what to ask. I think my first brokerage firm that held my 401k was Vanguard, and then they switched to Fidelity. And so I remember thinking, well, what do I ask Vanguard? I don't even know what to ask them. Like, I get on the phone with them for what? I don't know what to, I don't even know. I didn't even know what to ask. You know, when you don't know what you don't know? Well, that's where I was. So I was just completely lost. And going to Fidelity didn't make a difference to me either, because I was like, I don't know what you do either. It's the same thing. I didn't even know what to ask. So it was like, I know when you have those accounts and it's sitting there and you're like, well, I have it and I'm getting the match, whatever the hell that means. And so somebody said to contribute up to the match, and okay. And that's that. I want you to understand how to maximize these accounts. And I don't mean max out the accounts. I never maxed out my 401k. I'm not saying not to, but I never did. And I'm still a multimillionaire. Okay. And I had over $1 million in my 401k. I haven't touched it yet because I'm not 59 and a half and I don't need it. And so I did not max out my 401k, not 1 year, not 1 year. Nope. So I want you to understand it's strategy. It's not like, oh my gosh, I got to put $32,500 in there every year. No, not even close. But you got to know what you're doing. You got to know what you're doing. Okay. And it's got to make sense for your goals, your strategy, and it's got to make sense for you to hit your target. Can I get a link? The QR code is not convenient for me. Oh, absolutely. I will get a link for you. I'll send that to you. Okay? Yeah, Grace. Do you want the link for do you want to just go straight to buy? Is that what we're talking about here? Let me know, and I'll send that link to you. What time on Tuesdays? I was going to ask you guys, but I think 7 p.m. Eastern is a good time. It's not too early. It's not too late. It's once a week. You get with me. You talk about money. I want you in there understanding what's going on with your money. I want you to ask questions. I want you to feel comfortable. This is 12 weeks. 12 weeks to learn a skill that you can use forever. 12 weeks that you can use a skill for a retirement account, for a Roth IRA, for a 401k, for a brokerage account, for a 529, for any kind of account in the stock market. 12 weeks. That's it. Something that you haven't been able to understand or do or start or anything. 12 weeks. Okay? That's an investment in yourself. I know that you guys spend 12 weeks doing a lot of other things. This 12 weeks will revolutionize your wealth building. Trust me, it is the case. To schedule a call, okay, Grace, I will send that to you. And then when are the one-on-one calls and how many again? Which one-on-one calls? This is the group program. There aren't any one-on-one calls. If you want to work with me one-on-one, that's completely separate. We can definitely talk about that. Book a call. We can talk about that if you want to do one-on-one. But this is the group program. And this is strictly for investing to get to the 100K or your next mile marker in the stock market. With my one-on-one clients, we're talking about all sorts of other things. Yes, we're talking about investing, but we're also talking about real estate. We're talking about alternative investments. We're talking about a whole bunch of other things. That's really, really in-depth for folks who are ready to go really deep and to do multiple types of investments. Okay, so that's it. This is strictly for folks who want to get started in the market, understand the market, understand the investments that they currently have, if they don't already. It's very important. Who can do this without having to pay a financial advisor and without having to live like you're broke. We're not doing that extreme fire crap. We're not doing that. We still want to have the life we're living, okay? We don't want to do things that make us feel like we're depriving ourselves. What is the point of building the wealth under deprivation? No, that doesn't make sense. I don't want to do that. I never wanted to do that. That's why it didn't work when I was like, oh, let me do this extreme pay off my debt. Mess. It was a mess. I'd start, I'd stop, I'd start, I'd stop. Finally, I said I was sick of myself. I wasn't making any progress. It was a mess. So I had to find a balance for my life. I had to figure out what was important to me. And so I had to put my money towards those things. And I did. And I always did. Never stopped going on vacation. Never stopped going shopping. Never stopped doing the fun things that I like to do. This girls' trip, I'm on it. Like, I wanted to do those things. That was important to me. But I also knew that I didn't want to be living hand to mouth later on in life. And I wanted to maintain this lifestyle. How am I going to maintain it if I don't build wealth? I have to have a net worth there that's growing so that I can rely on that money. I could live off of that money when the time comes. And also use that money, like I am now, to live. It's important. So I think it's incredible for folks to understand that this is 12 weeks of an investment, 12 weeks that you are investing in yourself to learn a skill that you can use ad infinitum. After the 12-week program, we'll be able to continue this on our own. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Or we'll need to make appointments with you annually or monthly. Well, I don't disappear. Obviously, I'm still here. But no, of course you'll be. Listen, you must be able to continue this on your own. That's the whole point. The same skill that I learned 20 years ago is the same skill I'm using today. That's my point. You are going to be able to do this forever. Forever. And I'm not talking about you're in there learning every single thing about the stock market. You're always checking your accounts. No, I want you to learn this skill. I want you to figure out which investments you're going to invest in. I want you to be able to say, in 6 months, maybe I'll throw some more money towards this investment. Okay, fine. And then I want you to go do something else. I want you to continue living your life. I want you to continue doing all the things you enjoy. And then I want you to go diversify. I want you to, if you want to come back to me and then talk about real estate investing, all right. You want to come back to me and talk about vending machines, okay. You want to come back to me and talk about investing in Anthropic, which is Claude, which I've done, which is lucrative. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff that we move on and talk about. But you've got to get this foundation first. This is important. You can't get to those other stages without understanding this. And that's why once you do this, you're done. You don't have to look at this again. You'll know all the different accounts in the stock market, and you'll know which ones are relevant to you. And maybe right now a 401k is relevant, but for all I know, some of you are about to have kids and suddenly you're like, oh, I got to start saving for college. How do I do that? Oh, guess what? It's based off of the same tenets that you learned for your 401k, because it's the same stock market, the same thing. So when I save my 529s for my 2 kids going to college, I have one in college right now. I have one who's a senior in high school. Same thing. So all of these things are based off of that premise. So you're going to be on your own afterwards. Of course, you can come back because I love all my clients. I talk to them all the time. But of course, you can do this on your own. That's the whole point. I want you to be financially literate. I want you to be educated. And I want you to teach someone else how to do this as well. Now, I know everybody is not going to do this. Not everybody out in the world is going to do this. We get it. I get it. You're here because you know this is important. You're here because you know you have to either get started or get serious. Because some of you guys have that money that's been sitting in there for a while doing nothing. And so that's why you're here. So I want you to, by all means, know that by the end of this, you're going to be competent. Why? Because you're going to ask me every single question, and I'm going to share everything. I'm going to share all the behind the scenes. There's no gatekeeping here. Okay? I'm in groups with multimillionaires. Multimillionaires. And this is what they do. This is how they started. Some of them had businesses. Some of them had 9-to-5s, just like me. Did not have a business, did not have some great business idea, which I sold and had a great exit. And then I was an overnight millionaire and I was able to create all this wealth. No, that's not what happened. I had a 9-to-5. Yeah. And the thing is, most people who are working their 9-to-5s aren't maximizing and capitalizing on that 9-to-5 to build wealth for them. I am creating an exit strategy for you from your 9-to-5. I'm not saying you have to, and I'm not telling you to walk out, but I want you to be able to go to work because you want to, not because you have to. I'm here because I want to. I don't have to. My business does not support my lifestyle. I would love it to, but it doesn't. But my investments do. Okay? My investments do. And that's where I want you guys to get to. But you got to start. You got to book the call. You got to get in there. You got to give yourself one night a week to talk about money. Because we don't necessarily talk about it with our friends. We don't necessarily talk about it with our family members. They may not know. They may be uncomfortable. And maybe the conversations about money that you have aren't uplifting. They aren't forward moving. They're about the price of eggs, the poor economy, the debt. We have a strategy for a lot of these things. There are a whole set of folks out there who have figured this out. You are not going to be the ones that are going to sit there and not understand what to do. No. I am committed to finding people who are interested in doing this. I'm not going to lie to you, it makes your life a lot less bumpy when there is money to smooth out some of the problems. Because if there is a problem that money can solve, you no longer have a problem. And I want you to understand that. So in order to start building wealth, you got to get out of those savings accounts only. You got to know where your cash flow is going. You got to understand what's important to you and what you value. And you've got to understand and get the financial literacy necessary to start building wealth. The state of the world doesn't worry you at all. I'm guessing no, but that is for sure a fear, because it sure does feel like the end of times. Does the state of the world worry me? Yeah, it does. I think it's a scary situation. I think that I know that what is starting to happen. I'm going to tell you guys something. I am in this group for first generation millionaires. Okay. And do you know what happened over the past year? What everybody started talking about? How to leave this country. How to leave this country. How to get out when this place, if this place goes down the crapper. And it was fascinating to me, because guess what? These people have the money to get out. They started looking at getting citizenship and residency in other countries. Okay. They started bringing in folks, attorneys who can talk about how you can acquire your residency and citizenship in other countries, how you can pay for it, and how to set it up now so that if you have to leave or want to leave or think it's time to leave, that you get out. And the people that are trying to get out or planning to get out, if the need be, if the need arises, if they feel that they have to, are the people with money. Guess who cannot get out? You will only be able to get out if you have money. So yeah, people are worried about the state of the world, but is the state of the world always worse for people with money or for people without money? I don't know. Study the history books, right? Study the history books. I think you can control what you can control. You can throw your hands up, but you're here for a reason. And I don't think it's because you're just worried about the state of the world. I think you are worried about the state of your world. And I think that is important to evaluate. And when you assess that and you look at the state of your world, then I want you to know, okay, what is it that you want? What can you control in the state of your own little world right now? That's very important. That's incredibly important. Good to know. We will join the group, but how soon can we join? You can join right now. Absolutely. You can book a call, but here's the link. If you're ready to join, this will take you right to the sales page. It has all the information that we talked about, obviously, and everything is there. So you can join if you want. I love it. I'd love to have you both. That's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, wow, that's true. What's true? I don't even remember. Well, I have to watch the replay. Which part was true? All of it was true. I only speak truth. But yeah, no, I think you were referring to when I was talking about the state of the world. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's really fascinating, to be honest. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on right now. And I know that, like, I'm in a different situation. Obviously, I have dual citizenship. But where am I going to go? Up north again? We're fighting. Canada and the US are fighting. It's the worst time. I don't even know what's going on, right? But I also am going to acquire another citizenship. I surely am. But that's also because, yes, the state of the world, but rich people do this all the time. They do this because of taxes. When you start accumulating this money, people start finding ways that are legal to evade taxes. You know who can't evade taxes? Yeah, with your W-2 income taxes. The taxes you pay for investments are less. They're called capital gains taxes than the taxes you pay for your income. This is why investing is so important. If you take out $100,000 and I take out $100,000, let me rephrase that. If you make $100,000 and I withdraw $100,000 from my investments, I don't pay any taxes, any federal taxes, 0 capital gains taxes. Okay? Think about that. You're paying income taxes on that $100,000, federal and state and sometimes city, right? If I take out $100,000 from my investments, the capital gains taxes are 0. Married filing jointly. All right? This is part of what we're going to be talking about. This is why I want you to start investing. This is not just because, oh, it's the right thing to do and have money for retirement. No, I want to keep more money in your pocket. This is how you get more money in your pocket. Rich people are tax evaders. Okay? I know it sounds nebulous, but it's true. And legally, the tax code is written for this. So I want you to learn this. I want you to understand this. How else will you know this? Where else are you going to get this information? Even when I'm in those groups with these multi-millionaires, I learn something every single day. Nobody taught me this. Wasn't born into wealth. My immigrant parents didn't even know what the heck, what? I showed them how to invest years later. Was it for them? Sure, but it was also for me. If some of you guys are in the sandwich generation and you know that you're going to have to take care of your parents, you better figure this out because you're going to need this money. They're going to need this money, right? So when I figured out, hey, let me get my parents investing something, they started as senior citizens, okay? They were already in their 60s. But that little bit of money has grown. That little bit of money has grown. And if they need to tap into it, now they're from the pension generation. They have a pension and good for them. But if they need to tap into that, that money is there. If they need it for care, if they need it for God knows what. So I want you to understand that this is not just for you and your circle. If you know that, yeah, you're the first generation high earner, you're the first person in your family to invest, you may be the first one to make to get a net worth of $1 million and beyond, you are also the one that they're looking at. And you may feel a responsibility to help. You may want to help. I want to help you help them so it doesn't impact your lifestyle negatively. You should be able to help and still live your life. And so, yeah, there was a lot of forward thinking there. It was like, hey, mom and dad, let me tell you about something. Because they didn't know. They just thought, you know, the best you do is you save. You have a little CD ladder going or something. Okay? And guess what? If they never touch that money, what have I created? Generational wealth. I don't need it, but it can go to my kids, or they might not need it, and it'll go to their kids. And look at what we've created. Something that they never had, didn't understand, couldn't experience, couldn't even comprehend. Generational wealth. They grew up poor. Okay, what? So to set them up, to protect them, to protect me, and then that could potentially become generational wealth. Yeah, there's a lot that we need to talk about. You will be fine once you leave this program. You will be more than fine. You will be ahead of most Americans. Believe me. Okay, more questions. Yes, who has it worse, people with money or without? Yeah, that was a mic drop moment. Listen, because you're right. Hello. Even in these times, those with wealth have options. Always have options. I always have options. Wealthy people always have options. No matter what. You don't hear wealthy people complaining about the price of eggs. It doesn't affect their health. It doesn't affect their diet. It doesn't affect how they move through the world, right? Nothing. They're not talking about that. I want you to have the conversations that are not solely on the price of eggs. I want to elevate these conversations for you, okay? I want you thinking about money differently. That's what's going to happen in this community. I'm going to introduce you to things that are going to blow your mind. And I know they're going to blow your mind because they blew my mind and nobody was talking to me about them. And it was amazing. It was amazing to learn. And even to this day, when I learn something new, I'm like, really? How come I didn't know that? I can't tell you how many times I say that. I can't tell you how many times I say that. So like, you know, I say to my kids all the time, the one who asks the most learns the most. if you're not asking me questions, I'm coming to you because I really want to know what you're getting, what you're not getting. I'm there for you. I'm in your corner. And if I don't know, I'm going to find out. Absolutely, I'm going to find out. Okay? I'm going to find out. Because I remember not even knowing what a stock was, not understanding how to even buy one, how to even pick one out, how to do any of it. I remember vividly. So I'm not thinking that anything you ask of me is, simple or basic. Not at all. And let me tell you, when I'm in groups with multimillionaires, like hundreds of millions and billions, I'm asking questions. I have no shame. I want to know. I want to know the answer because that's how you learn the most. All right. Are investments liquidated money? Investment 101, I'm sure. Okay, so investments you can liquidate your investment. So and we will get into that. I love this question. I love it. Listen, when you have an investment, right? So when you've bought an asset, let's say you bought Apple shares, okay? And by the way, if you have an Apple product and you don't own anything in Apple, we're going to have to talk, okay? We're going to have to talk. Because if you can buy it, you can own it, okay? If you can buy it, you can own it. And I want you to think of that, all right? I want you to think like that. If you are buying it, I have an iMac, a MacBook, an iPhone, I have all this crap. I was like, what? No, I can own that. I can own it. And I see everybody running around with those too. No, let me get a piece of that action. Let me get a piece of it. So if you have an asset, like an investment, like Apple shares, okay? While you are buying these shares, you own a whole bunch of these shares. Say you own 100 Apple shares. If they're not liquidated until you sell them, okay? Right now, it's like they're on paper, right? Just hanging out there. Oh, you have 100 Apple shares. I don't know what the ticker amount for Apple is today. I'm making it up. Let's say, I don't know, whatever. You have 100 Apple shares. I don't know what the ticker is. But if you decide, you know what, I need some money. Let's say each share is $5,000. I know it's not. Let me sell one share. Then you've liquidated one share and you've liquidated $5,000. Now you have $5,000 in cash. Okay, so that's the liquidation. I love that question. These are the kind of questions you're going to ask. See? And now I bet you somebody else in the audience, somebody else who's listening is like, I didn't know what that meant. Yes, that's it. Now that $5,000 that you liquidated, if you held that Apple share for over a year, okay, when you take out that $5,000, you don't pay any federal taxes on it because it's capital gains, okay? Capital gains tax. It's a lot of, listen, we're going to get into that because I'm about keeping more money in your pocket. All right, very good question. That is partly why we got to 900K. Not sure what that was. I was just asking that about the taxes. Excellent. So true. We were taught to roll over our real estate, 1031 exchange from one property to a different real estate vehicle. Ironically, we still feel directionless. Excuse me. Yeah. So I get what you're talking about here. I don't want to confuse folks. That is real estate investing. If you want to talk about something like that, that's definitely, we can do that in a one-on-one. I understand what you mean by rolling over to a 1031 exchange. Basically, what you're doing is you have an investment property, you roll it over into another investment property, you buy another investment property so that you don't have to pay taxes. That's it. This is an example of the tax code is written for rich people. That means you got one investment property already and you're getting another one and you roll over all the proceeds into that one so that you don't pay taxes. Brilliant, right? Where can you do that where you sell something and you don't pay taxes? When you sell your home, guess what, right? So that's just something for people to know about. There are a lot of ways that you can avoid taxes by utilizing your investments, okay? And they're legal. I'm not saying anything's illegal here. They're all legal. That's the thing. They're all legal. But if you don't have assets, you don't have investments, you don't have the access to do this. And that's why rich people remain rich. I mean, come on, because they're not paying the taxes that, you know, we are paying. When I was working, we were paying, right? Like, let's be honest. So you got to get in the game and understand how the game works, because you can't play if you don't understand the rules, right? But when you're on the fringes and nobody around you talks about this kind of stuff, you're always going to be trying to figure it out and struggling and on the struggle bus with everybody else. I don't want to be on that bus. I don't want to be on that struggle bus. I had to get off that bus. I had to figure out a way to get on a different bus. And I want you to come on the bus with me. I'm trying to get as many women on that bus with me. So this is what I want you to know. This is why I want you to join. This is why I want you to book the call. AAPL, yes, that's the ticker for Apple. Thank you. Thank you. That is partly how we got to 90K tax strategies. 900K tax strategies. Yes. Yeah. Oh, you joined. Amazing. Woohoo. That's great. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. I'm so glad. I am so glad. What other questions do you guys have? Let me know. I love this part. I tell people all the time, this is what I like to stay on for, the Q&A. Really, because I think people they don't believe that this is possible for them, particularly if you don't know anybody who's done it before. Let's be honest. I didn't know anybody who retired early. Who does that? I did not know anybody who retired early. I didn't even know about the FIRE movement. I know a lot of you didn't know about it either. I didn't know it existed. So I was creating a reality for myself that I didn't see, which is really hard to do. But I also knew that I was like, listen, some people, yes, are born wealthy and have this humongous head start, and I get it. But if you're not born with this humongous head start, but you're making the money, you may be the first one to go to college, you may be the first one making this money, you may be the first one who's starting to understand these things, and you don't get the opportunity to utilize these resources, it just really bothers me how much time I lost because I didn't know. And nobody was there talking about this stuff. I wasn't in those circles, right? So if you can find out, if you can ask questions, if you can be in a community with people who talk about money differently, who understand how to invest, who understand how to build wealth right alongside your life, not that FIRE weird stuff. Sorry, FIRE folks, but I'm not about it. But really understanding how to do this while you build wealth and live life, it is remarkable and incredible. Is there a way to invest money, say from your paycheck pre-tax, and then be able to transfer that into a stock? Not sure if that makes sense. Yeah, that's your 401k. Your 401k, a traditional 401k, takes the money out before you pay taxes on it. So what happens is it takes the money out before you pay taxes on it, so it lowers your taxable income. What do I mean by that? So you make $100,000, for example. You decide you're going to invest $10,000 in your 401k. So what happens is the federal government says, oh, you only made $90,000. So that's what we're going to tax you on. See how that happens? But you got 10,000 here that's still making money for you. That 10,000 you then take and you buy stocks, shares, ETFs, bonds, all kinds of assets, which we'll talk about. That's exactly what you do. You got it. You got it. You got it. So sometimes you want to buy assets, right? You want to have it before the taxes. Sometimes you want to do that because otherwise you're going to be paying a ton of money in income taxes. So that's a way to reduce the amount of money you pay in income taxes. So sometimes you want to figure that out, the right mix, so that you're not paying too much in income taxes. But sometimes you want to invest the money after you pay taxes, right? Because the money that you invest after you pay taxes, depending on the kind of account, when you go to take it out, you don't have to pay anything on it, no matter how much you take out. And we'll get into that. So you've heard of the traditional and the Roth. So I'm going to give you an example in my 401k. I'm not going to give you the numbers until you get into the group, because no, I don't know who this is going out to. But if you're in the group, absolutely. In my 401k, I had a traditional 401k and I had a Roth 401k. So the traditional part was the money that went in before I paid taxes. Okay. So there's a whole amount of money I have in my traditional 401k. But when I go to take that out at 59 and a half, I'm going to have to pay income taxes on that money. Right? Now, there are ways to avoid that, of course, because what did I tell you? Rich people know how to avoid taxes. So there are ways to avoid that, which I will tell you about. But that is how that's set up. But then my Roth 401k, that's money that went in after I paid taxes. And so when I get to 59 and a half, I could take that money out and I don't have to pay a cent. And there's no cap on how much I can take out. So I could take out hundreds, and there are hundreds of thousands of dollars in my Roth part that I can take out. And I won't have to pay any taxes on it. Strategy, folks. Strategy. You got to know which one, when, how much. This is what we're talking about. You are going to learn this, and you're going to learn it for your personal circumstance, right? I went to a wealth advisor probably a few years ago when my kid was starting college. And I was like, all right, you got to start taking out some of this money. I've been saving for this 529, been doing all this stuff. And, I was like, let me look ahead to like when I'm going to have to access, my 401k, my retirement fund. And the wealth advisor said to me, I don't know too many people who have enough money in their Roth. It's like, this is fantastic. And I said, yeah, I know it's fantastic because I figured out how to do this. I surely did. I wasn't fooling around. I had to learn, but I figured it out, and I was in the right rooms, having the right conversations, so that I'm still not there. I can't access the money yet without penalty. But when that day comes, that money's just sitting there growing. So when that day comes, I know I can withdraw that money without paying any taxes on it. That's incredible. So I want you guys to learn this. That's all. That's what this is about. Can we be anonymous in the group? Yeah, you can. You don't have to. You can be anonymous in the group. You don't have to be on camera, but you're going to have to talk to me at some point, so I'll know what you're talking about. Stick with one name if you want to be anonymous one, just so that I know your situation, right? So that when you're asking questions, I can answer. That's really what's important, right? Wish we could have gotten this education sooner. Yeah, you and me both. I wish I could have gotten it sooner too. But you know what? There's no time like the present. Okay? Because I didn't start early. Not all of us are going to be Warren Buffett starting at 11, right? So if you're starting in your 30s or 40s, it's not too late. But if you're goofing off and you don't have a strategy, you're not going to hit your targets, whatever those may be. Some people don't even have targets. No, we're going to have targets. I need to know from you, and we're going to figure out, well, listen, how much money are you going to need in retirement? Are you going to need $1 million? Are you going to need 500,000? Are you going to need 4 million? What are we talking about? How are we going to get there? Right? And these are questions that a lot of people have never asked. So I want to know. And I want you to know. Shasta, I hope I answered your question about I love this question that you asked. It totally made sense, and I hope I answered that correctly for you, and it helped. Does the group stay intact after the 12 weeks without the calls, of course, but stay as a group? I never thought about that. Well, if you like each other, we could stay together. I mean, I stay in touch with all of my clients. So, I circle around, see what they're doing, ask them if they're ready to do something new, something different. Because I get to know them, right? Your money's personal. I get to know a lot about you. I can look at your money and see what's important to you. You may not know it, but I can see what you want to do. And then I ask you, is this really it? Is this really what you want to do? So I get to know, especially with my one-on-ones, I get to know about their kids. I get to know about their partners, their friends, I get to know about their whole lives. So I circle back, you know what I mean? And sometimes I'm curious about if they're going to move on and do something different, depending on what stage they came to me in. You know what I mean? Like sometimes people are like, I just want to pay off debt. And I'm like, I want you to invest as well. But, some people will not feel good unless they do that. So they do it. I don't agree that you should wait. But, this is your personal finance. it's for you. And if you can't sleep at night knowing that that debt's there, you can't think about investing no matter what you hear and no matter what I say. All right, then let's focus on paying that down. And then they're ready to invest, and then they come back. So I know of some folks who are in here right now who that's their exact situation. So yeah, I mean, we could talk about staying together. I do have another group, but that's something completely different. That's VIP, and that is, the Money Lounge. And that is for women who really want to get into some hardcore investing, but also want to talk about all things money, right? And travel and luxury and health and skincare and hair and all the beautiful things, right? So that's something different. But this, I want you to get this foundation. Once you have this understanding, it is such a good foundation for all other things in terms of building wealth. So I'd love to see you in there. Yeah, we could talk about sticking around. I'm sticking around. So, you know what I mean? Maybe some other people would want to do that as well. Yeah. What else, folks? What else? Have you guys booked your call? Have you booked your call? Now, I know someone said they wanted the link. I'm using this new webinar platform. I feel like if I move somewhere that this whole thing is going to disappear, and I'm scared. But I do want to get the link for her so that she can book the call, but I really don't. I'm new to this webinar platform. But I will send that link to her, or maybe I can put it in the chat. If that's the case, then I will put it in the chat for her. But if you guys have grabbed the QR code, that is excellent. Let me see. Okay, that is the scheduling link. I put it in there. I hope you guys, I didn't lose you. Kelly said, yep. Yep to what, hun? I'm not sure what I was saying. You got to keep me. You booked the call. Yay. Okay, good. Good. You can tell I'm chatting. You guys are going to learn a lot. Trust me, because I talk a lot. And I want to answer your questions. I'm so keen on answering all your questions. I want you to feel good about money. I want you to feel good about what you're doing. I want you to feel good about your future. I want you to feel good about your present. I want you to feel confident. I don't want you to be scared. Right? I don't want you to be, because the fear comes from the ignorance. You just don't know. That's it. That's simply it. And I know it feels like a lot, but that's just because Wall Street wants to give you a lot to confuse you. It's not that confusing. When you hear some of these terms and you're like, why don't they just call it that? It's so basic. But they're like, okay, we're going to call it this just to, it just to confuse you, honestly. When you're able to break down some of these things, you're like, this is so dumb, right? Like, I could have known this ages ago. And so that's what I want you to know. I want you to know that. And I know that some of you, if you're thinking that you don't have money to invest, yes, I know I said $1. $1's not going to get you to 100K. But what I want you to know is that once we organize what's going on, because I know a lot of times the money's a bit messy. Our personal finance stuff is a bit messy. So once we organize that stuff, you'll see I'm the money finder. I always find money. I always find money. Always. Okay? Always. So you will find the money to invest. And again, you don't have to start with thousands of dollars a month. Start with what we find first. You could start with that $300. That $300 is like half a month toward maxing out your Roth IRA. So I don't know if you guys have one of those, but that's almost a month's contribution to it if you're thinking of maxing it out for this year. So that's another thing. Also deadlines. We talk about the deadlines for maxing out some of these accounts. We talk about taxes. We talk about, which we've done a lot here. We talk about what is comfortable for you. And then we talk about what you can do moving forward. That's why that whole last module is really important, because I want you to know, if you start off and let's say you decide you're going to invest $100 a month. And then, throughout the program, we're together for 12 weeks. Lots of things can happen. Sometimes people get new jobs. They get raises. They get bonuses. We talk about it. What are you going to do with that money? How are you going to allocate that money? I want you to think about the money before it comes in and make some decisions about it before it hits your paycheck. Because I'll tell you what, before it hits your bank account, because I know just from past experience, if the money just comes in and I don't have a plan for it before, I don't really have a clue of where it went. No clue. Okay. But if I know it's coming and I can allocate a little bit to this and a little bit to this and a little bit to that, I feel a lot better. And I'm not walking around saying, I don't know what happened. Right. That is not a comfortable feeling for anybody, particularly when it comes to money. And so I want you to think about, things that are going to be paid off. Sometimes people tell me, oh, I finished paying off my car. And I'm like, okay, so what are we doing with that car payment that you've been paying for the past 5 years? No idea. And we make a decision right then and there. And sometimes we break it up. Some goes to debt, some goes to a vacation, some goes to towards a vacation fund, some goes towards investments, some goes to emergency fund savings. I don't know. Sometimes they just take that whole car payment and start investing it. They weren't using it before. Right into investments. So I do want you to start thinking about things differently. You're going to learn about how you can look at your money very differently. I think it's a great opportunity for you to be in community with people who are forward thinking about money and who want something different for themselves. And sometimes different's better. I don't know if this will be better. I think it'll be better. I mean, I can never see when more money isn't better. I haven't come to that situation yet. So I'd like to find out so I can keep getting more money. But I want you to be in a situation where you feel comfortable with what you're doing with your money and that it's making you feel empowered and you feel better about the decisions that you're making. I'm really confident. Really confident. What other questions do you have? You guys have some good ones. Anything else? I love that you've been on for this long. This is so good. We started by saving small amounts at a time. We had no idea how to start, had to learn the hard way. Lots of debt before and college. College debt? Oh, man. Yeah, that's a doozy. That's a doozy. I cannot tell you how many people have come to me who have children who are about to go to college and they, the adults, the parents, haven't paid off their college loans yet. And they are about to send kids out into the world and they haven't saved for college either for their kids. Like it's a lot, right? And I'm right in the thick of it. Like I see that with my clients. I know exactly how much college costs. I see that I have a kid who's about to go to college and one who's in college. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And, you have to decide what your contribution is going to be, right? You may not be able to pay for everything. You may not be able to give them a full ride, and you cover all of the expenses. You may decide that, hey, they got to figure it out on their own. You may decide that you can pay for some things, but not other things. I mean, there are a lot of decisions that are made going into this. And I have a lot of thoughts about it. And I like to discuss it with my clients. I think it's really important. And for those of you who are starting to save for kids' college, these are the questions that you've got to ask yourself as well, right? If you have little kids, because I have clients, I run the gamut. I have clients who are just having, they have little ones that aren't even, or like they're pregnant, or they have little ones who are just about to go into like daycare or nursery school or kindergarten. And then I have clients who have kids that are already in college. And then I have clients who don't have kids. And then I have clients who have grandkids. So literally I have clients between the ages of like 26 to mid 70s. So, I mean, you name it, I've talked about it. We've talked about it. I've done it. And so with investments, it depends on your money stage. It has nothing to do with your age. I'm telling you, it depends on your money stage. What's going on in your life, right? Sometimes they coincide, but not always. That's why I said that sometimes you can have a 55-year-old who's like, I've never looked at my money. I don't know what's going on. Everything is disorganized. I make good money. I've always made good money, but I don't understand it. I don't understand investments. And, I don't have any debt, but I don't have anything saved for retirement, or I don't have any investments. And so that's where they might be at 55. And then I can have a 30-year-old or 35-year-old who's like, look, all my stuff's organized. I just don't know how to start building. I don't know how to start building wealth. I'm ready to do it. I'm making decent money. I understand my cash flow. I just don't know how to invest. I don't get it. Nobody around me has ever invested. I come from a family where people were barely making ends meet. I'm going to have to support my mother. So I just want to make sure that I can get my money together and start taking care of myself, and then be able to take care of her when the time comes. It doesn't matter your age. It matters what stage you're in, because then that determines, okay, what are you investing in? What do you do next? So the skills you learn, depending on your stage, this may be the stage you're at right now, but you're going to take these skills for when the stage changes, right? The stage could change, but you're still going to have these skills forever. So I think it's really important to learn this, and you can carry it with you for all types of investments for the rest of your life. Yeah. All right. What else? Bring on the questions. Anything else? Are we still booking some calls? I am here to answer questions right now. Do you guys have questions about the program itself? Questions about the program itself. I find that with these group programs, that the community is so helpful. I know I mentioned this earlier, but I know that when I'm in a group program, the community, it just helps me because I don't think of everything to ask. And so somebody else who's thinking about something else is just really, really good for me, because I can stick a pin in that, come back to it, and then I'm like, oh yeah, that's something that I need to think about or tackle or ask about. So I really like that community aspect. It's really, really very helpful. I think this is really good. Yeah, even here, the questions others are asking have been so helpful. Yeah, really. There's some things, like there's a million things that I can talk about when it comes to money, but when you hear other people sifting through their brain and saying, okay, does this make sense? Is this clear? This is what I've heard. It gives me, obviously, insight into what you're thinking and what you want to know about, but it also opens the doors for other people to get the answers that they didn't think about asking, or especially when you don't know what to ask. But it also fosters that community of like, it's okay, ask your questions. You know what I mean? Like that whole environment, if it's okay to ask. You know what I mean? I ask all the time, and I don't assume you know anything, and not because I'm, being rude or obnoxious, or like, I just don't want to assume you know stuff, and then you feel like not asking. I want you to be open in here, right? So that, because I know that I didn't know squat. I didn't know anything. So I'm like, maybe you don't either. But the beauty is I didn't know anything, and look what I've amassed. So I know that you not knowing all of the things or anything per se doesn't mean that you've hit a ceiling. No way. You're not even close. Not even close. We're not sure if they should take loans or if we should pay for college. Maybe that's why we think 2 million is the magic number. So many queries, so much to learn. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to learn. I don't know if you've invested for the 529 for the kids. I'm not entirely sure. That's something that we could definitely talk about. But yeah, how long do the weekly calls go for normally? An hour. I know. Do you think that I'm going to be on here for 3 hours? I wouldn't do that to you. No, we'll be on for an hour. We will be on for an hour. But there will be plenty of time for you to ask questions in that hour. Believe you me. There's also going to be a Facebook group where if there's a question that you ask when you're not on the call, or if there's more information that I've acquired during the call, that you're going to get the answer in the Facebook group. I will also pop up in that Facebook group and leave little videos answering questions or any new things that come up. So that's a place where not only is it the repository for all of the calls, so if you miss a call, you can listen to it again, or you just want to listen to a call. But there's going to be the answers to questions. There's going to be additional information. If you have questions, like I said, midweek, like say you're looking at an investment account and you have a question, you can pop that question in there. You can ask your question anonymously. I will know who you are, because obviously if you're asking about a specific account in your particular circumstance, I would need to know, right? But that's fine. Yeah, there'll be an hour. You guys are busy. You're busy. I know. I was a busy W-2 earner too. Very, very busy. I know you can't stay on here forever. Now, I would love to talk about money forever with you. Trust and believe. I will. But no, I get it. I get that you're busy, so it won't be beyond an hour. How long do we have access to the recorded calls for? Oh, thanks for answering all this. I love answering all of this. Don't say that to me. I love answering all of these questions. Keep them coming. This is my favorite part. How long? You're going to have access for at least a month after the 12 weeks. Okay, so it'll be 16 weeks total. So you can always go back. Okay, you can always go back. But if you really feel that you guys feel that there's a lot there and you need it for longer, we can work something out. We can work something out. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I know sometimes, because you got to listen to this, right? A few times. It's like a new language. You're learning a new language. And I don't know if any of you speak another language, or English is your second language. You know, learning another language takes some time. You've got to listen to it. You got to hear it. You got to hear the words in context. You've got to speak slower sometimes. You've got to hear it again, right? So a lot of the times and this is what I want you to get comfortable with, right? Learning these words, learning this language, and soon it'll become old hat. You're going to know this language. You're going to know the language of money. You're going to approach money differently. You're going to speak it fluently, because money's going to be flowing and you're going to understand it. You're going to understand what people are talking about. You're going to hear things out in the wild and you're going to be like, oh, I know that. I know what that is. Oh, I'm invested in that. Oh, I got a little bit of that. Oh, I'm working towards that. You're going to know what people are talking about. It's not going to be like how I used to feel when, people were talking about the market. And I was like, I literally did not know what they were talking about. I would just zone out. Just because I didn't know. I mean, it was like listening to German. Guten Tag, and that was it. I don't know what that, that was it. Or actually, I should say Guten Abend now, because it's good night. But that would be the extent of it. But it's not like you are going to acquire the fluency that you have with English right now. So, tout la même chose, right? Like I can speak French. All the things I can acquire, and I'm rusty too, right? But I know the language, and when I hear it, I hear the words and I can identify it. And that's what I'm going to want you to do with money. We're going to have those money talks. You're going to know the verbiage. You're going to be able to speak it fluently. We can name drop too. Well, Shannon says, who are you going to name drop that to? Who are you going to say that to? Well, Shannon says, well, yeah. I mean, listen, I would love it if you start speaking the language of money around the people you know. And yeah, I get it. Not everybody's interested, obviously, and not everybody's geeking out on this stuff, but some people might be interested, right? But I know you're interested, and that's why you have to be in this community, because you want to speak to other people who are interested as well. If you had other people who could teach you this, you wouldn't be here, right? You wouldn't be here. But this is where you learn this stuff. This is where you get to share your experiences, your wins, your growth, your money, right? And I think that that's the beauty of community. That's the beauty of it. So you're going to learn a new language in a new community, and you're going to get richer while you do it. Not a bad gig, if you ask me. Not a bad gig at all. More questions, folks. More questions. Let me know. Let me know, please. If you have anything else hanging out there. I know that I have like some former clients who were at different stages, like I told you before, who weren't in the position to really dig into their investments. They had stuff, but they had other things that they had to focus on first or wanted to focus on first. And that's why I want to point out too that money is a journey, okay? Money is a journey. So I want you to know that just like anything else, like you don't go to the gym one day and then you've got the body of your dreams and you're like in tip-top shape and your health is pristine. No, it's a journey, right? You've got to work towards it. So you're going to learn this skill, and then you're going to go learn another skill, but you're going to build on them, right? But it's a journey, and you're going to take your time learning all of the various skills. But you've got to get started, right? You've got to get started. And so that's why I think it's so important for you to get the lay of the land. Don't wait on this. The timing is perfect. The market is down. Only people, it's so funny, only people who understand the market get excited when it's down. I know you hear on TV, the market's down, people are freaking out. Not investors. Investors are like, oh yeah, okay, let's pull a little bit more money from over here and throw it in the market, because that thing always goes up. Even at the low that it's at now, it's still higher than it's been in years. Crazy, crazy, crazy. It's low. It's not as high as it was 3 months ago, but it's still higher than it was 3 years ago, right? Weird. So it's still trending upwards, and we'll talk all about that so that you understand that. But this is where we come for you to understand your existing investments. If you already have 100K, if you don't have anything, I want you to understand, because I know some of you have been sitting on that same amount for years. And I'm like, I've had clients come to me, get on a call with me and say my investments are going down. And I'm like, well, that's too bad, because something's wrong, because everybody else's went up 24% last year. So what are you doing, right? And that's a punch in the gut. So we need to figure out very quickly and get you the education you need so that you don't end up in that situation. Because if your things have been flatlined and stable or decreasing, then we have a problem. And I actually saw someone's today where I was like, wow, this is going down. They're like, oh, it keeps going down. And I'm like, well, that's because your financial advisor is taking their cut regardless. This is one and done. One and done. You make this one investment, you 40x it. That's the goal. And again, for those of you who already have investments, if you already have, and you can honestly say you understand what they're invested in, great. But if you don't have a strategy, you don't know why you're invested in this, you don't know how much it's going to be, when it's going to hit that target, how much you're going to need, if you can't answer all of those questions, you need to be in here so that you understand what you're doing. This is the money you're going to work for every single day. Why are you working so hard for it and not paying attention to it? You work too hard for that. You really do. All right. More questions? More questions? Let me know. D, all of the above. Hilarious. Any more questions? I'm going to stick around, guys. Trust and believe. I'm not going anywhere. If you stick around, I'm sticking around. I want to answer your questions. I'm an open book to share in the group, of course. I'm not going to share all my business to this wide open netherscape, but I do share a lot of stuff in the group, because I think it's really important for people to understand how I make decisions, how I got to where I got to, considering I didn't know anything, how I did this off of a 9-to-5 salary, how I used my income to create wealth and still save for kids' college and still buy real estate and still pay off my student loans and do all of those things and get out of debt. I think it's important for people to know that you can do this, but you've got to have a goal, and a strategy. You cannot just wade through this. It's not going to happen. If it were going to happen, guess what? We'd all be millionaires, because a lot of you are making a lot more money than I ever made. I will tell you that for certain. I see that a lot. And it's simply because you don't have the information. It's not because you don't have the income. And so getting that information in your hands is the key to getting you to move forward with your net worth and your finances. Also, I think it's really incredible to share this, especially if you have family members who are interested, if you have children, if you have, parents, like I said, that you have to take care of. I think it's important to consider this. And I know some of you have some of these responsibilities already, and you think, how can I take away from these responsibilities in order to start investing? But this money is what creates the foundation for you to take on these responsibilities with less pressure, because you take the money piece off the table. When you don't have to worry about money as the determining factor for a decision, decisions look very different. Think about every single decision you make, and that money has to factor into it. Money is usually what's behind it. Whether you make the decision, you're like, oh, I'm going to do it anyway, whether I'll find the money or not. Or if you're like, I can't do it because I don't have the money. Money comes in a lot. It's at the foundation of everything, whether we like it or not. So if you have it, I want you to be able to create more of it without you working more, without getting a part-time job, without you getting a side hustle. I want you to create more of it the most passive way possible. The only truly passive way to create that income, and that is to invest. So yeah, I definitely want to see you guys there in this group. I believe it's going to fill up pretty quickly. I haven't checked to see who booked. I've heard a few people say they booked already, and some people who bought already, which is amazing. But yeah, I want you to also be smart about it and get the bonus. That bonus is until tomorrow at midnight if you book your call. So if you book your call, you get the bonus and you're way to go, right? So that immediately right there is a way for you to get some money earmarked right off the bat that you can use to start investing. Okay. And I say start, I'm not assuming that all of you have zero investments, but for those of you who do, don't have anything started, then yeah, we can get started. And of course, we're going to talk about what you should get started with based on your own particular circumstance. Okay. Because I know a lot of you are using these like online investing, like, oh, I'm putting aside, collecting my change and using that to invest. And I'm like, yeah, but that's fine. But investing in what? Right? Why? Like, how much? When are you going to access that money? When are you going to need it? Like, I just want you to ask the question. The way in which you're doing it isn't as important as why you're doing it. And I think getting the answers to those questions is going to make it so much easier for you to make these decisions. All right. Who still has questions for me? Anybody? So I'm going to tell you guys while you're thinking of your questions or typing them in. So last week I was in Vegas and I went to that conference, which I told you about, which was great. Got sick. Here I am. I'm rallying because I really want to get this information out. And I have to recover because next week I'm going to France. So I'm going to France and Belgium. Very excited. It's a friend's birthday, so we're going to celebrate. So we're going to France. In fact, somebody wrote to me who got an email and said that they used to live in France and that they have a lot of tidbits that they want to share with me. So I'm going to reach out to her tomorrow after this call because I want all the information. Why not, right? So that's pretty exciting. One of the things that I think is really remarkable about that. So I've traveled a lot. I travel a lot. But I traveled a lot to Europe when I was working in pharma because the headquarters, I worked for a German company. So I went to Germany a lot, but I also had to go to Switzerland a lot and I had to go to the UK a lot. And so, when you travel for corporate pharma, at least then, you would travel in business class, right? Sometimes you get bumped up to first class if there was a first class. And so I would travel in business class all the time. But domestic, you had to travel, in economy. So once I stopped working and I had tons of miles and stuff, so, once I stopped working, I was like, wait a minute. Now I got to travel in business class. I was so accustomed to traveling those long distance trips in business class. I was like, I'm not getting an economy. And so I never really looked at the cost of a business class ticket. Hello, folks. Hello, folks. They are gastronomical. And the first time I realized this is like my eldest son wanted to go to South Africa. And so we were going to South Africa for his graduation present. And he loves animals and he wanted to go to safari. And I was like, I wanted this to be a nice trip. And so he and I were going, and it's a long way to Tipperary, friends. I mean, I think it's like a 14-hour trip. And business class was pricey. And I was like, look, you're not doing these trips all the time, even though that's a lie. That's what I told myself. But yeah, I am. You're not taking these trips all the time. But it's important, that I wanted to go in business class. I wanted to be comfortable. And I was like, I like traveling. And I like nice hotels. I like luxury. And I'm like, this is what it's for. Now, I made the decision to pay for those business class. I'm going to France business class. I don't care. I love going in business class. I love that special lounge. And now with this whole TSA stuff going on, I don't even know what's going to happen there. But the whole experience starts when I get to the airport and I get to the lounge. So that for me is important. I will always go for the upgraded ticket. Other things, I don't care so much about. But that is always important to me. These are the kind of things that I want you to think about, because I want you to think about what is important to you. I want you to think about, okay, what am I building this money for? What am I building this wealth for? How am I going to enjoy it? I'm not talking about building wealth so you can sit on a pile of money. I mean, if that's what you want to do, great. But I'm thinking, how can you create experiences for yourself and your loved ones and your family? I think of wealth as giving myself more time and more freedom and more options. So this is what I see it as. But you've got to figure that out for yourself. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about, well, why do you even want to do this? Is it just to look at these like 7 or 8 figures in your bank account? Maybe. I don't know. Or your investment accounts, maybe. But for some of you, it may be like, no, these are the types of experiences I want to have. This is what I want to do with my time. This is how I want to spend my time. I don't necessarily want to spend all my time with Sally at the office. I may want to spend my time doing other things. And this is what I want to do. And the money that I've created and the wealth that I've created is giving me the option to do that when I want, how I want, wherever I want, right? So we're going to get into that because I think that's also very important to talk about. People like to talk solely about the numbers, but I want you to talk about what it actually means to you, because then it's a little bit easier to understand why you're making the decisions that you're making, why you may say no to things that you're like, I don't give a crap about that. I want this. I want more of this. And so I'm going to create wealth so I can enjoy more of this. So I want you to really understand that we are going to go deep when we're thinking about these types of things so that we can really experience the kind of life that we want to live, right? And it's personal, right? The kind of life that you want. Some people, like I talk about travel, I want to travel and da-da-da. Some people are not interested. They don't care. They don't want to go anywhere. And that's fine. That's fine. I had a client who was like, I want a lake house. He's in North Carolina. He wanted a lake house. He wanted to go hunting. He wanted a nice truck and he wanted to go hunting. And I don't I'll have to find that picture. They eventually bought that lake house. It's gorgeous, by the way. But he didn't want to leave the country. He didn't want to leave the state. Okay, he was good with that lake house and his truck and to go hunting. And I was like, hey, man, that is your goal. This is what you're heading towards. And that's what they achieved. And that's what they accomplished. So knowing what that is and what you want and being, if you have your partner, you guys being on the same page, or you just knowing for yourself so that you can actually take the steps that leads towards that and not away from it. Very, very important. Questions? Any questions? Are you guys interested in retiring early? Anybody? Excuse me. Anybody interested? Yes, yes, yes. What's early? What does that mean to you? Because I'm seeing that people are working till, 80. I saw a scary, and I this to me was a horror film. It was a documentary showing 80-year-olds that were still working. And listen, hear me out now. Walmart greeters, Uber drivers, and this was a PBS documentary. And the reason why they were doing this is because they had to get some extra money to pay groceries and to pay rent. These weren't, nutty professors who are like just still stimulating their brains, or Warren Buffett who finally stepped down from Berkshire Hathaway. No, these were people who needed to work well into their 80s, late 70s and 80s, doing these jobs because they couldn't make ends meet. So when you guys are thinking about retire early, what are you thinking about? Like, what age? I'm curious. Put it in the chat and let me know what you're thinking when you say retire early. Or, like, are you talking in the next 5 years, next 10 years? Like, what does that mean? I'm curious. Because I really stumbled upon retiring early. 7 years. Okay. All right. 5 to 10 years. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. The funny thing is most people can be financially independent, honestly, starting from scratch in 10 years, 10 to 15 max. And it's if they have a strategy. It's crazy. It's sometimes people are like, what? And I'm like, here we do it. Here we go. Let's look at this. And they can see, like, I'm talking to a 40-year-old and they realize that they can retire at 50. And they're like, are you kidding me? I'm like, you don't have to, but you can. You can. And that just changes the way you show up every single day. I'm 51. I have a 401 Roth, no debt, make decent money. I'm that 55-year-old you were describing, but the company I work for does layoffs quite a bit, and it's scary. Yeah, I could see that. And you want to retire in 10 years. Okay. Yeah. Well, listen, I always say I like people to have their investments because anybody can be in an office around the corner deciding your fate, deciding that it's enough for you. You are not coming back here on Monday, and here's your package. That's a reality. I know it is. It's very, very scary. I saw it happen to a lot of people, and they were terrified. So I just like to get ahead of stuff. That's why I like to plan. And I think it's so important to make sure that you're going to have enough. If you decide you want to leave voluntarily, or if they decide that you're going to leave, right? And we got to know how much that is. That's why when we're looking at the expenses, your cash flow and what you're spending, and we're using that money tracker, you got to know how much it costs to live. And it's not your whole salary, right? We got to know what it actually costs for you to live, because then that's how we're going to determine how much you're going to need when you retire. Unless you plan on shrinking your life. And there are different ways of looking at retirement, right? When people first retire, I like to call it the go-go time. They're traveling, they're doing things, they're all over the place. And then they get to the slow-go time. They don't travel quite as much. They don't go out that much, but they do a few things. But they're starting to, slow down a bit. And then they get to the no-go time. That's when they are not going anywhere. Sometimes that's when the medical expenses start to go through the roof. That's when they need more money again, right? Because they have medical expenditures. So I like to plan for that whole period. Go, slow go, no go, right? And for you women out there who I know are going to live to 100, that time, the slow go, the go lasts a lot longer, right? Because you're healthy, you're strong, and it's not, you're not kicking off at 80 or 75. So guess what? We need more money. So this is why we've got to get started. We've got to get going. It's so very important. So what I talk about when you're thinking about the layoffs, obviously, we talked earlier, you heard me talk about emergency funds. We got to get those in place. We got to get those set up. We got to make sure that we're protected, right? So that if something were to happen, you're not dipping into said investments. You're not going to be the person who draws out their whole 401k, right? You're not going to be the person who can't pay their mortgage or pay their rent or buy their groceries. We got to be protected. So this is why we got to look at all of your personal finances, all the ways in which you handle money, not only, your investments, but yes, we want to look at, great, you don't have any debt, but we want to make sure that you're protected just in case someone around the corner says that's enough for you. You've got to go on Friday. 10 years. Oh yeah, Shess, you'll be able to do that. No problem. No problem. Even because you don't have any debt, you've got a 401k, you just got and a Roth potentially. We just got to figure out, are you maximizing on that? What are you doing? Are you really going to make that 10? Are you going to really utilize those 10 years to make this thing grow? I've been retired for 12 years. I retired at 48 years after working 30 years, at 48 years after working 30 years at a government job. Oh, amazing. Amazing, amazing, amazing. So what are you doing now? I love it. 12 years retired. That's fantastic. Oh my gosh. So good. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Babysitting grandkids. I love it. Oh my God. That's going to keep you young. That is going to keep you young. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, I think it's important that, okay, so you've already been retired for 12 years. I would love to hear your experience on how it is with a fixed income. And because you had a government job, so you had a pension. A lot of people are not going to have a pension. That pension generation, no. So some of you have pensions depending on the companies that you work for, but that doesn't mean a pension is going to be enough. Right? A pension doesn't replace your entire salary, right? And so that may not be enough for you. So I want you guys to think about, if you don't have a pension, if you know you're not going to have a pension, then where are you going to get money from? Right? So we want to talk about this investing. You can't save yourself to a retirement money. You can't do it. Just like you can't save yourself to wealth, you can't save yourself to retirement money. So it's very, very important, especially, but also if you have a pension, but especially if you're not even going to have a pension. And please, Social Security. Social Security, I don't know. I think it's still going to be around, although I never know what's going to happen with this administration. I think it's still going to be around even for the millennials and maybe even for the Gen Zers. But it's not going to be the same amount. And quite honestly, I don't even factor Social Security in. I don't. When I'm calculating the amount of money that people need and what they're going to use for retirement, I don't even factor it in. Let it be a bonus. If it's there, great. Otherwise, it could end up being lunch money. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't factor in it. It's going to be there. But think about it. If the average Social Security payment is, I think this year it's like, is it $1,300? I think it's about $1,300. And I think the max is $3,600 for 2026. So, I mean, $3,600 a month, great if you have other money, right? But if not, how many of you can live off of $3,600 a month? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So, and you could, but is it going to be the lifestyle that you want? The lifestyle that you have? I don't know. So it's just something to think about. And that's why we think about it in the program. We think about it a lot, and then we talk about it, and then we talk about it, and then we figure it out. Because I don't want any surprises, right? Let's try to control what we can. So very important. So yeah, so I do have some people who want to retire early. I love it. I love that. Yeah, I don't even think, like I said, retirement has to be an all or nothing type of thing. I think that you can retire and work part-time. You could retire and start a business like me. I don't know what I was thinking. But it's a passion. I love it. I feel it's so important for people to learn about this. I'm vexed that I didn't know about it earlier. So I'm like, everybody must know. Everybody must know. We're not gatekeeping. Everybody's got to find out. So, so that's why, right? But you don't have to, you can retire and there are a lot of people who are like, you know what? I'm just going to work at Starbucks. I just need a little 20 hours a week, 10 hours a week, and this is enough for me. And then the rest of the money is coming from their investments. And they're free to come and go as they please. I mean, it's however you want to build it, baby. It's however you want to build it. So I think it's important to think about these things. And a lot of the times we're not thinking about these things. And when we're not thinking about these things, we're not planning for them. And then it's a surprise. And look around. Look around at people who have either retired or, who can't retire. And if they're open to chat about it, have a conversation with them and see what they say. It's good to, have that perspective, right? See what they're talking about. Why are they still working? Do they have to continue to work? My son this past summer worked at the zoo, the one that loves animals, of course. So he worked at the zoo, and he said he was talking to some of the folks who were doing some of the grunt work that he was doing. You know what I mean? And he was like, these people were complaining that this is really hard on their bodies. And a lot of them said that, they've been working there for many years and they couldn't retire, but their bodies were breaking down because it was like manual labor. And he was like, what are they going to do? Right. And he said it was pretty depressing to hear the conversations that they were having about how, things are so expensive and they couldn't retire, but they're getting old and this is taking a toll on them and they're not sure how they're going to be able to make ends meet. And it was just really interesting to listen to him absorb this. I don't know where it will go, but, for him to understand that this is a reality, you know what I mean? And it's not necessarily because I don't know what decisions or choices these people made or didn't make or what their stories were. But the fact that he was hearing that people out there were like, what's going to become of me? And that he could hear the fear in their voices, right? And what did that mean? And he was like, what happens to them, right? And they were asking what will happen to them. And they were nervous. And I just think that if you are here, if you are on a call like this, if you're thinking about your money and talking about your money, people like that. You know of people who are in that situation. You've seen them, you've heard them, they may be in your own family. You know that is a very big reality for a lot of people in this country. And so any way that you can circumvent that type of scenario is doing yourself a service and probably some of the folks in your life a huge, huge service. So I think it's very, very important for you to show up for yourself and invest in yourself and to learn this so that you could spread the word as well. We want our kids to get credit cards when they're 18 so they build credit. Yeah, I mean, I think it's more important for you to put them on your credit card as an authorized user if you have good credit, of course. And then, of course, teach them about credit. That's important. No reason for them not to build credit. I'm not opposed to credit cards. I don't have anything against credit cards. I know that people get into trouble with credit cards. So yeah, but once you understand how they work and once you understand interest, I don't pay interest. I make interest, but I used to pay interest like a sucker. And so I had to learn very quickly that that's not cool. And so once you are no longer in that trap, then in your making interest, then yeah, it's a very, very different situation on that side of the fence. But yeah, they can build credit as long as you are having open conversations with them about credit cards and why you want to build credit and why that's so important. I think sometimes people are too focused on building credit instead of building their net worth. And it's like, I don't care if you have an 800 score, if you have $100 in the bank or no investments. Like, what do I care? What does that do for me? What does that do for you? Nothing, right? Like, I want you to have your net worth higher than your credit score. How about that? If the max credit score you can get is 850, I want you to have $850,000. How about that? That's what I want your net worth to be, right? So I don't want you to focus too much on credit. I think it's important, but that's not the be all and end all. Boy, you guys are good. You are hanging in. Guys, it's almost been 3 hours. I love it. I love it. You see, this is why people have to ask, how long are these calls going to be? I swear, they're only going to be an hour. There's no way you guys can do this every week. But believe me, it's going to be jam-packed with information so that you walk away at the end of every week having some more financial literacy and feeling better about what you're doing with your money and watching it actually grow. That's the most important thing, right? I obviously have a ton of nuggets to share, a lot of information about this that I'm going to teach you and share with you. But of course, there's always room for other things that we can talk about too. I know there are different levels in life circumstances and goals, but just as an example, what would be an ideal realistic investment amount for the average person to start seeing good results? That's a good question. And I'm going to only answer that question based on, and I want you to take this as it's only based on the amount of money I'm throwing out here because it's arbitrary. And the reason why I'm going to throw out this arbitrary number is because if I had heard this number when I was starting out, I wouldn't have started. Okay? That's why I don't like to give a number. I don't want it to be intimidating to anybody. If I say right now, look, if you want to see results, you better start throwing in $1,000, right? A month, let's say. If I had heard that when I started, I wouldn't have started. It would have shut me all the way down. I didn't have $1,000. So I would have been like, all right, well, I guess I can't do it, right? So it is personal. It is so very personal. The more you put in, the more growth you're going to have. It's as simple as that, right? The more you put in, the more growth you're going to have if you have the financial literacy and the right strategy. Because I know people are putting in money and not making a cent and losing money. So know that. Just because you're putting in $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 a month doesn't mean you're making money. If you are not investing it properly, you will lose money, period. But I don't want you to feel like, and that's why in the group, this is why we got to talk about comparison. If I had heard that, $1,000, $500, $5,000, I would have shut down. I don't want you to focus on what anybody else is putting in and what their growth will be. We'll talk about what your growth will be and what your target is. I'll tell you exactly how much you've got to put in. That's easy. That's easy. If you want to get X amount by X amount of time, we can calculate that in seconds. But will you be able to do it? Is that going to shut you down? Are you going to say, well, I don't have that, so I'm going to put in nothing? Because people like to do that all or nothing game. So they don't start, right? I don't have $100 a month. I don't have $1,000 a month, so I'm not going to do anything. No. Start with where you are right now, today. When I was paying off my mortgage, and this is when they used to have those drive up through tellers. This is like this particular bank that held my mortgage. You couldn't pay extra online to hit the principal, so you could pay it down sooner. So what I would do is every week I would drive to the drive-through teller. Sometimes I would put $25, $10, $50 on that principal. I didn't care. The woman was like, are you putting $10 on the principal? I sure am. I sure am. That's how you become mortgage free, faster. So I could put the mortgage payments into investments, right? So I don't want people to hear big numbers and shut down because they hear that they can't do that. Do what you can. $25 a month. I am a multimillionaire. If I had heard that, oh, the needle wouldn't move if I didn't start at this, I wouldn't have started. And I'd be on that bus I told you I don't want to be on. I don't want to be on the struggle bus. I want to get off of it. I'd still be on it. So that's why I'm like hesitant to throw out the number. I need to know your personal circumstance. I know your stuff. I'll tell you. You ask all of my one-on-one clients. They know what they need to do. They know what they need to do if they want to get $1 million net worth. Oh, yeah, they know their number. Trust me. They know their numbers. They know if they want to save this amount for their kids' college, they know their numbers. If they want to save this amount, like, you know what I mean, for anything, they know their numbers because their personal circumstance. I have to know what you're making. I have to know your expenses. I got to know what's important to you. Sometimes your kids' piano lessons right now are more important. So we cannot take, some of that money and put it towards particular investments. That is important to you. I'm not going to tell you to get them out of piano, right? That money has to go towards what's important to you. When that's done, or if you make more money elsewhere, or you take it from somewhere else, then we can allocate that to increasing your investments. This has to happen with life. We don't live in silos. We don't live in vacuums. This has to happen with life. Okay? And see, what people think is that they have to give up their life in order to start investing, so then they don't start investing. Not at all. That's not the case. I love your question, but it's personal. So if you want to get that answer, you got to come in and give me more information so I can tell you the answer for you specifically. Oh, you need to go? Okay. I'm so glad you were here, Bernice. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. You're looking forward to your call. I'm looking forward to your call too. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to all the calls. I hope you guys have all booked your calls. Bernice, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you later. Yeah, I want all of you to book your calls. Have you booked your calls? Thank you, Bernice. Have you booked your calls, folks? If you haven't booked your call, please book your call. I want you to be in here. I want you to get all the answers to your questions. I want you to know that this is a good fit for you. I really do. I want you to know it's a good fit for you. So please book your call. All right, you're booked. Yes, excellent. Anybody else? Book the call, guys. We can have this conversation where I can give you answers to your specific questions because they're personal, obviously, right? The fundamental stuff that you're going to learn in the group is great, but when I speak to you in a call, I'm going to know your personal circumstance. So when you ask me questions, I'm going to be able to answer for your personal situation. And that's why it's so powerful, because you're not getting just this generic answer that you get when you Google stuff or when you ask Claude or ChatGPT. As much as Claude and ChatGPT knows you, they don't know you. They don't know all the likes and they're not going to get into that. They're going to spit out some formula that doesn't account for your feelings and your emotions and the things that you really enjoy. So that's what we're going to talk about. So by all means, I want you to book the call. Any other questions? What else was I sharing with you guys? I have so much information to share. Oh, another thing. This is kind of interesting. I don't know how much this has to do with money, but it was kind of interesting. So on my flight to Vegas, I had booked late. So even though I told you I like to be in business, it was booked up. And the only business class seats I could get, I don't do business when I'm traveling domestically unless I'm going across the country, right? I'm on the East Coast. When I'm traveling across the country, then I will do business. But for little short haul flights, I don't. So I was going to Vegas. So of course I was like, I got to book business. That's too far. And then I couldn't get a business class ticket. Felt like a loser. The only one was 6 a.m. Wasn't trying to do that. So I was like, whatever. So I got premium economy, which I don't know what the hell that is. But anyway, I was in a premium economy seat. I was on the aisle. And then there's this woman that was sitting in the window, whom I actually ended up at the same conference with, which was fascinating, but we didn't know we were going to the same conference at the time. Anyway, this gentleman sat in the middle. And I was like, oh, I thought we were going to have all this space. You know what I mean? Like nobody was going to sit in the middle seat. But he sat in the middle seat and he was a flight attendant. And so I was out cold for half the flight. Then when I woke up, he started talking to me, which I thought was kind of interesting because I usually don't talk to people on the plane. And I never think that anybody start talking to me. And I'm a serial introvert. Okay. I can be extroverted, but like this is fine. I can talk to you guys all night. But if we were out in the wild, I'm very, very quiet. Very, very quiet. Very, very observant, right? One-on-one, chat, 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 chat. Anyway, so he started talking to me and he was like, he was telling me all of the story and da-da-da-da. And then he started talking about money. Now he was about in his early 30s or like very, very young for me. So compared to me. So he was in his early 30s, he's single, whatever, and he started talking about investing. And it's so fascinating because he was clear that he didn't know what he was talking about. But he was so delightful, like a delightful young man. And we had such a great conversation because I was like, an auntie to him, right? And long story short, I told him that I was like, look, I am doing this call. I'm doing this webinar. I'm talking about investing and I want you to come. And I was like, he talks about a whole bunch of things in his life. His mother had passed, so that broke my heart. Because I thought about when you don't have, I was thinking about, he was talking about money and he was saying he just didn't know all of these things. And I was like, well, I didn't know all of these things either, but it's very different when you don't have parents. He didn't know his father, but his mother had passed when he was probably in his late 20s. And so, that was it for me. Like, I was like, oh no, because I can't imagine, although I do have a very good friend who didn't have any parents either and lost her parents very young, how difficult that is, right? No guidance in that regard. And so I said to him, look, I want you to come because, he's working, he's doing well in this field. And I was like, I want you to just listen in because I want you to learn. I want you to learn about this. I just want you to come in. I was like, it's predominantly for women. I'm talking to women, but the concepts are the same. And I do want you to hear about this stuff. Because he was like, I don't know anything. I don't know where to turn. I don't know what to do. It's all new to me, right? And he's like, I don't have anyone to ask. And I thought to myself, I know that feeling, but not exactly that feeling. I know not knowing whom to ask about financial stuff and feeling really like everybody must know this or something. But I think it was even harder to hear because he didn't have any parents. Even though my parents couldn't tell me squat, I I still had the support of my parents. You didn't feel completely alone. So anyway, why am I telling you this? Because guess what? Again, here's someone who's in their early 30s, just starting out, really, making some money, can make a tremendous difference in their financial life. And literally, it's the lack of information that would stop him. That's it. It's not the income. He's single. He was living in Vegas. He's moving to Houston. He has a salary that pays him well, and he could really change the trajectory of his life if he, takes those steps right now. But not knowing is keeping him away from building the wealth. And so that's my thing. Just getting the message out to me is so very important. And that's why I do what I do. Of course, mostly with women. But, women bring their partners. Women bring their husbands. Women bring, you know what I mean? And so, yes, I work with a lot of couples as well. But it's usually the women that, pull me into the situation. And that's when we start to get to work. So I'm just raising this because, again, it's misinformation. It's a lack of information. It's not knowing what to do. And just this, having just this amount of information from something like this course can make a tremendous difference in someone's lives. I wish someone had told me at that time, hey, if you just do this, this, and this, you're creating options for yourself that you can't even imagine at this stage. It's remarkable. So yeah, that is why I do this. That is why I want people to do this. That's why I want folks to book. That's why I want people to join. And that's why I want you to ask questions because, I think that it helps me help you and help other people. So yeah. What else, folks? What else? I know some of you are still on here. Let me know. I'm not going to get off if you don't get off. And I know you can't be on here all night. Wait, are some of you guys on the West Coast? Because I'm like, and you guys are like, yeah, it's only 7:15. It's early. Let me see. Tell me again where you guys, the guys that are still hanging on here, where are you guys calling in from, listening in from? Because you guys are testing the metal. Oh, you're in Colorado. Colorado. I like Colorado. Been there a few times. It's lovely. All right, so you're a couple of hours behind me. Fair. Anybody else? Where are you guys? Anybody on the West Coast? All the way over on the West Coast? Colorado's mountain time. I don't know. All right. Well, I am going to, Calabasas. I knew it. I knew we had some West Coast folks out here. So it's so early for you guys. Well, listen, if you haven't booked already, I want you to book your call. Please do so because I do want to talk to you. I do want you in there. I do want you to join, of course. Well, you're in Texas, but you're going to get off. Okay, book your call tonight. Yay! Do you need me to put the link again? I know we have the QR code there, but I'm just going to drop the link in again if anybody wants to copy it, and just in case you're not using the QR code. But yeah, I want you guys to book your call. I want you to get in there. And I like this group. I hope you all join because I'd love to talk to all of you. You guys have some good questions, and I would love to talk to you every week. And hopefully you can learn a lot and share this, especially, Bernice was on. She was talking about she's taking care of her grandkids. I want her to share with her grandkids, right? Like, let's create this generational wealth. If Bernice knows this stuff and she can pass it on to her kids and to her grandkids, it's fascinating. I remember hearing about these folks who are like, their grandparents paid for their college. And I was like, what? Your grandparents paid for college for you? So do you know what a head start that is? Like, you come out of school with no debt? Like, That is wild. And your grandparents, not your parents, your grandparents. I mean, listen. So when I started to hear things like that, I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. I got to change the whole way that I've seen things done. And I've got to change the way that I'm doing things. And so, yeah, I'm going to be that grandparent like Bernice. Yeah. My kids aren't even out of school yet, but yeah, that grandparent. But yeah. So I am so glad you guys are all here. Please book your call. Please, I want to talk to you. Get the calls in before I go to Paris and Belgium. And I will be closing the doors for this. I'm going to send this out, and people are going to get the replay. I think I had 60 folks who signed up for this. Lots of people told me they couldn't make it live, so they're going to get the replay. So book your call before those people get in and they see that they've got to book their call so that they can get the bonus, and they're going to squeeze you out of this. Okay. And I know there's some people who are just going to jump in right away. So I love that you guys stayed on. I really, really appreciated all of your questions. I cannot express enough how much I love answering all of your questions. I really love this topic, money, and I really like talking about money, and I like making people rich. So it just makes me feel good because I know you feel good, and we all can feel good together, right? So I want you to get your questions answered. I want you to feel confident about it, and I want you to feel good about your money. So book your call. If you have any questions, write them down. Bring them to the call. If you have any other questions, or you can DM me, or however you want to reach out, you can email me, but get in there. All right. I am so glad you guys were here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your amazing questions. I really, really appreciated it. It's made this really good. And I hope to see you guys in the group. And I can't wait to talk to you. All right, folks. Night, night. All right, so I know that was a lot of information, but I know that people have a lot of questions. This is why I do these live events, because I know people want to ask all the questions, but they don't have somebody to ask. They don't know where to start. They're very overwhelmed, quite disorganized, and misinformed. And I don't want you to waste another minute scrambling trying to figure it out. So listen, doors close next Friday, April 17th at midnight. I need you to get in the room. I need you to get in this program. It's once a week with me live. You can ask all your questions. You're going to learn a skill that you can take with you throughout the rest of your life that will build the confidence and the wealth that you're looking for. If you want to ask more questions, if you need more information, book a call with me. The link is in the show notes below. But if you are ready, if you have heard all that you needed to hear from part 1 and now from part 2, click the link in the show notes below and get into the program. Spots are filling up fast, and I would love to have you in there. All right, take care. I will see you next week.